I'm Amanda.
I'm Jessie. In this podcast, we talk about the joys of motherhood as well as the experiences that have altered us along the way.
We've created a safe space to talk about the hard and unconventional alongside the beauty, and we want you to feel confident in the decisions that you make as a mother.
Welcome to the Motherhood Collective Co.
Let's talk.
Welcome back to Motherhood Collective Co. We are finally going to talk about this book today, you guys. Finally, right? You ready for that?
Yeah, I might fall asleep sitting up.
We're going to go quick because we are still... Did you listen to the episode I posted this week?
Yeah.
We're still sick from that episode.
Yeah.
So there's another copy of this book over there if you want.
I know, I saw that. It wouldn't help me at all because I just listened to the audiobook.
I did too,
which
but
makes
then
recaps like this a little bit harder for me, but...
I just went through, and the way I'm going to organize it in my head is there's two parts to the book. There's the part one where he talks about the problem, which I thought we could talk about first, and part two where he talks about the solution. So I just have bookmarked like a handful of like quotes I wanted to say because I thought they're really powerful. But literally I just flipped through and I'm like, oh yeah, this was a good chapter. This was a good chapter.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to hit everything I was thinking while I was listening to it.
Yeah.
Let me
I've told a lot of people about this book since we've read it.
Yeah, it's really good. And I'm finally to the end of Take Back Your Family, and I feel like I'm really starting to hit a stride with it.
Good. I'm glad. I told you the end is so good.
But what you want to talk about that one next? Remember, did you hear that in the episode? I'm like, I haven't checked with Jessie, but maybe we'll just do back to back. Okay, so next week we'll talk Take Back Your Family by Jefferson Bethke. How do you say that?
Bethke.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Look it up.
Yeah.
You'll find him. But today we are talking about The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer, who I cannot get his name right. I think I told you guys it was by John Ortberg like 10 times.
His name shouldn't be as big on the front cover.
Yeah, and it's on the bottom.
Just from my opinion, it shouldn't be that big because people normally would read the title and then they would just read the author right under it. So I don't know. If you're listening, John Mark Comer, I would maybe change that up a little bit. It's a little misleading.
So we hope you guys listened to the book. If you didn't, we'll give you the gist of it.
Yeah.
You have anything you want to say from the get-go, like right at the beginning, about part one, about the problem?
I think everyone should read this book. Everyone and their husbands.
Yeah, I agree.
I've sent Chase the audiobook, but he's like, he has ADHD, so he'll start a million things. Does he finish any book?
Yeah, that's Brady.
Probably not.
This one's been sitting downstairs. Brady goes down on one of those green chairs and reads scriptures in the morning, and I've noticed he's been picking this up and setting it with his scriptures. So he's maybe reading my dog-eared pages, which is better than nothing. But no, I agree. I think it's really good. There was a part that I highlighted in the beginning. Who talked about that at our book club when we went over this book? It was like the beginning quote. She's like, I'm done. Was it Michaela?
Oh, yeah. The first sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there was like a few parts in the foreword that were really good. Should I read them?
Yeah.
So the first thing I've highlighted, it says, the good of being delivered from hurry is not simply pleasure, but the ability to do calmly and effectively with strength and joy that which really matters. We should take it as our aim to live our lives entirely without hurry. We should form a clear intention to live without hurry, one day at a time, trying today. All of my worst moments are when I'm in a hurry. Love, joy, and peace are incompatible with hurry. And then he says the average iPhone user touches his or her phone 2,617 times a day. Do you touch your children that many times a day? That's like a sad thought. Like, I don't think I touch my phone that much.
I probably touch Ledger more than my phone.
Yeah, I think I touch my kids more than my phone.
But I don't know. I mean, I've been intentionally just like losing track of my phone.
Yeah.
I've been leaving it behind. I've been locking it up at 5 p.m. I am like rebelling against my phone. I've gotten off of social media. I'm just like over it. I'm so over it. And I wish we just lived in a world without them, but we do not. So
Do not. The last thing I'd highlight on this page, it says 20 centuries ago, another wise man said, make the best use of time because the days are evil. And that was a quote from Ephesians. And it says, I used to think that meant the days are full of sensuality and fleshly temptation. And of course they are, but I think it mostly means that the life we were intended to live must be lived in time. And we are so used to spiritually mediocre days lived in irritation and fear and self-preoccupation and frenzy, that we throw our lives away in a hurry. Now, all of that was by John Ortberg. That was the foreword. So the person who we kept telling you the book was by. So thoughts on that?
I don't know. I don't have any thoughts on that.
I like when he says all of my worst times in life are when I was in a hurry, or all my worst moments are when I'm in a hurry. Because
it's for sure true.
I feel like, especially as mothers, are we not always in a hurry to get out the door? We've talked about this. No matter how much you prep,
no,
you're just always in a hurry to get out the
I can't handle it. Like, it's been almost every morning this week that we've had something between the hours of 9 and 10. We have to, and we have another thing tomorrow. And like, it just feels like this is what I do the night before I lay out clothes. I prep breakfast if I can. I prep a lunch or snacks. I put water bottles, fill them up. I put them in the car. I put shoes in the car. I put a stroller if we need it in the car. Like extra sweaters. And I'm like, and we wake up like 2 hours before we have to be anywhere. But still, somehow, and I don't even do my makeup. I do my makeup in the car.
Yeah.
I don't even do all I literally do is I wake up, get dressed, get the kids dressed, brush my hair, maybe. And then it's like, I will do my makeup at stoplights on the way to our destination. So I don't even know. I truthfully don't know how I can be better with my time.
I know.
But I do know when I didn't have kids, I lived in the mentality of like, if you're not 15 minutes early or late. Yeah. And then even when I had Sunny, I feel like I was still able to do that. And now with both of them, I'm never on time.
I know.
It drives me crazy. I'm always 5 minutes late.
I still have that mentality of I've got to be early to be on time. And then with kids, that just makes it impossible.
But yeah, that is when I'm like mean for sure.
Oh
when
yeah,
I'm
you're like frustrated. Like, okay, we've put on 10 different pairs of shoes. Pick the ones we're wearing.
Or like that's like as much as I'm against the whole like, okay, I'm leaving then. It's like I've had to do that because I'm just like, there's another thing we have to go grab from our room. And I'm like, I'm leaving. I have to leave. And it's like traumatizing. And then we're in the car and I'm like, sorry.
But then he says, isn't it interesting that Paul's definition of love is patience? It's just like so combative. So that's like, I felt like that's a good setup for what the book is about. It's like the ruthless elimination of hurry. When I feel like I read the title of this book, it was like, oh, this isn't for me. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm not in a hurry. But it's like when you read this book, no, actually he's talking about all of the little moments that we're just rushing through. He's exactly talking to me.
And I did have that thought actually this morning. We were supposed to be somewhere at 10. I get in the car. My ETA on my maps is 10:05.
Yeah.
And I'm like so flustered. I'm like speeding and changing lanes. And then I'm like, it just hits me. I'm like, who freaking cares? Yeah. Like, okay, yeah, I'm meeting some friends. Like, I don't want them to be upset with me. But then I'm also like, but they're also moms and they're also probably running late. Yeah. And if they're not, they probably have before. Yeah. And like, who cares?
It's going to be
like,
fine.
We're going to still have like 2 hours together. Like, I don't know. It just kind of hit me like how silly that was. How I would never judge another mom, even if they were 20 minutes late. Yeah. Like I've never once been like, oh, how dare you?
Yeah.
Like, who cares?
Yeah. Who cares? No, for real. Who cares?
Gosh.
Let me see.
Okay. I'll tell you one of my favorite quotes that I remembered. It said, hurry is not from the devil. It is the devil.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. And it was like he was explaining about how, like if the devil can't get you to do something bad, he'll just make you really busy. And I thought that was so interesting because I'm like, if there's anything that can like, I don't know. Sometimes we always think that he's like out to like cause us to sin, and he is like, but even the fact that a lot of times, even what you were saying, it's like if busyness and hurry can't coexist with, like they said, love, joy, peace, and patience, those are 4 of the like fruits of the spirit. So I just think it's like if we're saying this is incompatible with the fruits of the spirit, like that's evil, right? Yeah. You know? And I just think sometimes we like carry busyness around as this little pet that like lives in our house, and we like justify it and we make room for it and we like let it take over relationships and all this stuff, and we never just like call it for what it is. And I just love the black and white bleak language of like, that's the devil, you know, because he's sneaky and he's trying to like infiltrate your life in a way that you physically can't live out like the way that the Lord created you to live, you know?
He uses like something like this all the time. He I think he did this like 3 different times in the book. He says to walk with Jesus is to walk slow and an unhurried pace. Hurry is the death of prayer. It only impedes and spoils our work. It never advances it. And then later on in the book, he said, imagine if Jesus was like busy all the time. Like, here, come save my sister. She's dying. Oh, 1 minute. I've got to go hop on a plane. I don't have the time for that. Like, Jesus always had the time. He always moved slow. He was always unhurried. So, and I just really like that image of Jesus in my head of like, yeah, he was.
Can I make like a controversial opinion?
Oh yeah.
Of,
please do.
I don't think anybody can live an unhurried life if they're on social media.
Yeah.
I don't think that like talk about things that are incompatible. I don't think those things are compatible. I don't think you can live this online life where you're like quote unquote connected to these hundreds of thousands of people and keeping up with their lives 24/7 and call your life unhurried. I don't think you will ever achieve an unhurried, peaceful life while living in the midst of 1 to 10 different social media apps. I just don't feel like that. At least for me, since cutting it out, I've finally tasted and seen peace.
Yeah.
And like steadiness and this like, there's not this like hustle bustle. There's not this, oh, it's an afternoon time to watch a movie. Now, like, instead of snuggling my kid, I'm sitting there scrolling whatever. Like, I'm just not worried about it.
You know, that conversation I had with Noah the other day, because we've been memorizing that Timothy verse I said in the last episode. And so he's been asking me, we've been having a lot of conversations of, this is how God makes us feel. This is how Satan makes us feel. This is what God does. This is what Satan does. And he said, there was one, I don't even remember exactly how it came up, but he said, what does Satan do the best? And I said, oh, and I just had, it came right out of my mouth. I said, he distracts us. Because that's exactly what I feel like. I don't think that social media is inherently evil. I think that Satan is there and using it as a tool to distract you from what's important, to distract you from living your life, to distract you from your kids, to distract you from opening your scriptures, to distract you from prayer. And instead of like in those moments of like hurt and pain, you lean on an app and phantom people instead of leaning on Christ. And every day that just chips away at your soul a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, until he's got you in his grasp. And that's what Satan does. Satan is not always obvious. I would say most of the time, Satan is not obvious. Satan is these little tiny dings into your soul that build up over time. He distracts us.
That's why I feel like the more you know, the more, at least for me, I just like get fired up and want to like rebel against the ways that he's infiltrating our lives.
Here's a good one too. Your phone doesn't actually work for you. You pay for it, yes, but it works for a multi-billion-dollar corporation in California, not for you. You're not the customer, you're the product. It's your attention that's for sale, along with your peace of mind. That kind of just was so coincidental that I opened that one next. That was nice. I liked that. Very clean transition there. And then, but again, we become what we give our attention to, for better or for worse. Hurry is not just a disordered schedule. Hurry is a disordered heart. Let's talk about that one for a minute, because that one like kind of gets me right in my gut.
Well, I think it's that concept of like when you're overwhelmed or you're flustered and you have a bunch of different things that you have to do or you perceive you have to do, and you're kind of running around doing everything poorly, you know, doing a lot of different things poorly. That's kind of what I picture busyness and rushed like living to be, is you're doing all the things you quote unquote need to do, but then they are just done really poorly. And the way that I picture slowness is, if I get to this today, I get to this today. If I don't, who cares? It's not the end of the world. My friend just presented this thing to me last night. She's in therapy, and she said her therapist challenged her to start triaging all the needs in her life. And so she said there's 3 different categories. There's like the red category, where it's like, this has to get done today. There's no other option. Like, say we're leaving on a trip tomorrow, I have to pack today.
Mm-hmm.
And then like yellow is the dishwasher is full, it's clean, it needs to get emptied. It's not the end of the world if it doesn't happen today. It might need to happen tomorrow, but it's like not as important. And then green is the give it to God category. Like, oh, I've been meaning to update my driver's license, or like those things where you're just like, your brain might convince you that that's like needs to happen today. But it's almost like, okay, that could happen today. That could happen in 5 months and we're good, you know? And I just really liked that. I was like triaging the needs, because there's always something when you're running a household and you're raising kids, but being able to just triage it in your brain of like, yep. Or it could be like, I really been meaning to text that person back because it's been so long. That is like in the red. That needs to happen today. Or like, it's only been a couple days. She lives out of state. I'm not seeing her anytime soon. Maybe that's a yellow, you know? Or I haven't texted this person back in forever. I'm seeing them tomorrow. I'm going to give that to God and catch up with them when I see them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just feel like that was really helpful for me, because I know a lot of times things pop up in my brain and I'm like, oh, I need to do this right now. But it's like, but why?
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah, but why? And I do also have so much compassion for women who work. Like one of my good friends, she works 2 jobs, and she is like, she read this book, and I'm like, she worked 2 jobs. She's pregnant. She has a baby. I'm like, I don't know how you don't hurry.
Yeah.
I don't know how you aren't busy. Like, I don't know how you, like, it almost feels like this is a privilege.
Yeah.
To be able to slow down, because I don't know that everybody can.
I don't think our husbands can. I mean, to an extent, when they're home, can they slow down? Yes, but like
there
in their
needs
day-to-day
to be boundaries
life,
for sure.
Yeah,
but
in their day-to-day life, I don't think you could give this book to a business owner and say, "Here, this is a business book," because it's not. It's definitely a
what I do love though.
Family.
I feel like what he does harp on though is Sabbath.
Yeah,
you know, which a lot of these books we've read have harped on Sabbath, but it's that concept of like, I don't care who you are, you're not more important than God
and his commandment.
Exactly.
Yes.
Like I've been taking that so seriously, and I feel like it's caused tension in some areas of my life, but it's like work ceases on Sundays, and that is like, it's not the end of the world, you know?
Yeah. Luckily that's been so ground into Brady since he was a child, because that's something I feel like his family probably takes even more seriously than we take it, to where maybe it swings on the other side of the pendulum. It becomes a little bit of legalism, but because of that, I feel like Brady has good practices in that. And as I'm the one that has the problem slowing down on Sundays, because I'm like, but where's my cortisol? Where's my checklist? Where's my things that I could be doing?
It's so hard. Yeah,
it is hard. Let me see. Let me move on to the next point we can chat about.
You got rid of your plants. Did you throw them away?
Shh, we're not talking about it.
Oh, that makes me so sad. You could have at least put them on Facebook.
No, because then people come to my house and they know where I live.
Oh my
I don't
gosh,
like that.
Put them on the freaking corner of your street. That's so sad.
Here's something that I really liked about this book. I really liked, he talks in this part, the problem part about, everyone always says like, what would Jesus do? No, that's not the question you need to be asking yourself. Your question you need to be asking yourself is, what would Jesus do if he was me? If he was a 32-year-old mom who stayed at home with her kids, homeschooled her 5-year-old son Noah, and lived in Colorado.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I love that so much, because you can use that in moment to moment. Because there aren't a lot of times in my day where I'm like, what would Jesus do in this situation? And it would be the same thing that I would do, you know? But what would Jesus do if I was me in this situation? I feel like is a lot easier for my brain to be like, he probably would not be flipping on his phone.
No, I just picture him like sitting crisscross applesauce, like just so intently engaged, you know? I just had an intrusive thought.
What is your intrusive?
I never wrote... I meant to write down your phone number to put on our, like I have a list of like emergency numbers above our home phone, and I meant to put your number on there because I was just thinking like, if anything were to happen right now, he would have literally no way to get a hold of me.
Yeah, you should do that. I also like need your home phone number again.
Yeah, I think I sent it to you.
You
but
probably
yeah.
did, but I don't know. I need to probably put in your contact. I just need to actually look. Okay, so that was all I had for the problem part of the book.
What about like what I really liked was all of the symptoms of hurry sickness.
Where was that? Like I said, I just kind of flipped through this.
It was somewhere, but a lot of it was like irritability,
Let me see if I can find it.
inability to focus, speeding, changing lanes, feeling like you're kind of like scanning how many cars are in each lane at a red light and like getting in the shortest one and finding the shortest line at the checkout counter in the grocery store, and not being able to pay attention to what somebody's saying because you're already thinking about like what you're gonna say.
Multitasking to the point of forgetting one of the tasks. Yeah, irritability, hypersensitivity, restlessness, workaholism, or just nonstop activity, emotional numbness, out of order priorities, lack of care for your body, escapist behaviors, slippage of spiritual disciplines, and isolation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to, should I go into any one of those specifically, or?
I just liked when he like kind of gave a little quiz almost and was like, if you are struggling with any of these, you probably have an issue with slowing down. And yeah. It was like a little quiz or something, which I really liked.
Do the math. How did you score? 7 out of 10? 8? Yeah, don't worry. You're not alone. And he went on to say, reject any guilt or shame that you're feeling right now because it's not helpful and it's not from God. Yeah. Let's just move on with what we can do to fix it, which is the next part of the book. How do we fix it? So the part 3, or did we even do part 2? Sorry. Hang on. I missed the part. Part 2, the solution. Yeah, I missed that part. Hang on. You can keep talking. Fill the awkward silence.
What else to say?
Or maybe I did already jump into that. I think I did. Anyways, part 3, 4 practices for unhurrying your life. So the 4 practices, and we can go in one at a time. The first one is silence and solitude. And he harps, and this one I love it because I feel like our generation, I don't know, we're the nostalgic generation. We're the generation who can remember time. I remember getting our first DVD player. I remember getting dial-up internet hooked up into my kitchen and my home. But I also like get mad if a website takes longer than 5 seconds to load. So like I feel like definitely live both sides of the coin. But he's a little older than us, and he talks a lot about his childhood and like what a treat it was to truly experience an unhurried life before the internet became a household commodity, which
you get a taste of it if you even just like, I would challenge anyone listening to this, find a day this week where you leave your phone at home, take your kids to the park by yourself. Like, do not bring a friend, don't invite anyone, don't tell anyone you're going, just go to the park by yourself, leave your phone either at home or in the car, and just like notice the trees and the sky and your kids, and like just feel and think about what that would be like if that was all your life was. Yeah. Because it's so like, I've just never felt so peaceful as I do in those moments. Yeah. You know? But I also really liked his recommendation to do like a silent retreat or like a like quarterly getaway and be alone for 24 hours, or maybe it was 48 hours. I don't remember what he recommended. Without your phone and like just be quiet. Yeah. Just like literally be quiet. Hear from the Lord.
Like, so I went on this whole journey probably the beginning of the year, just like 2 months ago. It wasn't even that long ago. And I feel like the hardest part for me was I didn't know what to do with my hands when I was just sitting down.
What journey? You might want to expound upon that.
Sorry, like when I gave up my phone and I gave up social media, which lately in the last 2 weeks I've had really hard emotional last 2 weeks. So I have been posting to my stories the last 4 days just as like a creative outlet. And I don't know where that's going, if it's going anywhere, or if I just stop again. But I feel like the first couple of weeks of me putting a lock on my social media apps throughout the day, I had a hard time with what do I do when I'm bored? How do I sit and just like experience things with all of my 5 senses. And I feel like that's like an uncomfortable feeling because you're truly like weaning yourself off from an addiction. You know?
Oh, yeah.
A survey from Microsoft found that 77% of young adults answered yes when asked, when nothing is occupying my attention, the first thing I do is reach for my phone. And how true is that? Do you know what I did do after we talked about it? I removed message notifications on my phone. Like my little green guy at the bottom, like no number. So like I have to be intentional with, okay, I've got 10 minutes. I can text our group chat. I can see if somebody texts me and text them back instead of like getting the notification. Because I feel like that was the last notification that was holding on to my phone.
But doesn't your brain already think like, oh, there might be something in there?
Yes, but it's just
like,
a lot of self-discipline to like not check that.
Yeah. So we have this like vintage dresser upstairs in our hallway that still has like a lock to the doors. So that's where we've been putting like laptops and phones and everything at 5 p.m. And then we just put the key somewhere that would be just like such an inconvenience to go and get and find and like go unlock. And obviously we have the accountability of each other. But I've been doing that with my, like just during the day by my, like there's just something about just like putting it away, locking it up, putting the keys so far away and out of place that it would just take so much extra thought and time to get back into that. And then for what, you know, it gives you enough time to really think through like, but like, why do I need to do this? You know?
Yeah. Silence and solitude. That's his first solution.
Yeah.
And I think that is really important. And he talks a lot in this chapter about Jesus in the quiet place. Jesus is always going to the quiet place.
Yep. Retreating and listening.
And how can you hear the Lord if you never have any quiet to hear the Lord? Something that like a couple years ago, when I got really serious about my faith and got baptized and started actually practicing Christianity, somebody said, because I was like talking about praying and like, but I'm not getting an answer. And they're like, but what do you do after you pray? Are you saying amen and standing up and walking away? Or are you sitting there for 5, 10, 15, an hour, like to actually hear an answer? And I was like, oh, wow, you're right. So like, I don't know if I have 10 minutes because I feel like that's kind of like the practice of meditation, of being able to just sit and be quiet and not have thoughts and to try and hear what God has to say to you. But I do try to make that an effort because that's important. The next thing, so the second solution to this hurry sickness is Sabbath. And we have read, you've said it, we've read a lot of books over the last year of book club that talk about Sabbath. It feels like
almost everyone has touched on it.
Because it's so important. It is a commandment of the Lord that people don't take as seriously as they should. The thing I liked about this book and how he talked about Sabbath was it's not just a Sunday practice. Like if you rush through your week all week long and you get to Sunday, you're going to be so uncomfy, like practicing Sunday Sabbath. He talks about like every single day there should be just like a little bit of Sabbath, 20 minutes, 30 minutes of just quiet and peace so that when you get to Sunday, you actually know how to rest and how to do it.
Yeah.
And I really loved that.
Yeah. I had somebody this past week who we later had a clarifying conversation and everything was fine. But at first I was telling them like Sabbath is really important and like specifically surrounding like work boundaries for our family. I feel like the Lord gave that to us for the preservation of family and not only like for the honoring of him. And he knew we would be tempted to work beyond what we are physically capable of. And they said, they referred to it as being legalistic. And in the moment I didn't say anything. But like the more I was thinking on it, I'm like, it's really frustrating when you feel like you have like good intentions, like pure intentions of like following the commandments, taking God seriously at his word, like living and modeling your life after him, preserving your family and like boundaries surrounding like what is and isn't allowed to persist, like taking a stand against the devil, all of these things that are like so good, and for that to be so twisted into legalism. And I ended up following up with this person because it was bothering me for days. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And they later clarified like, oh, well, I like they had just done this study on Sabbath, and they were saying like it's a good thing, but like don't let it get to the point where it's like a legalism thing. Like if there is something that like comes up, and like just like some grace. And it was like, okay, that totally makes sense. We're good. We had a good conversation about it. But something I'm learning right now, Chase and I are doing this like inner healing group on Thursdays at our church. And it's so good. And one of the things that we learned in the first week is that there's like these really good things that God puts in our lives. I'll just give one example. One is like influence. So like people in your life that are God honoring, specifically your spouse, but also your friends, your family, like God gave them to you to influence you. Like you are supposed to influence each other for the good. You're supposed to like, you know, lead people in the way that they should go, right? And you're supposed to like lead them and guide them into truth. And you want to look at the people in your life and be like, oh, like that's how I want to be. But like Satan has taken influence and he's manipulated it into like control. So now instead of like, oh, but I like what I desire, like in a marriage, what I desire should influence you. Now it's like, well, that's controlling, you know? And so it's like, I don't know, along the same bounds, I see Satan taking something like so precious and holy and amazing like Sabbath. And if he can just convince you for a minute that that's legalistic.
Yeah.
Like you're missing out.
Yeah.
You're so missing out, but that's like what he does. He just distorts the good things.
I agree. And also like, I feel like we also have dominion over what Sabbath looks like in our home, over our children, especially when they're this young. And for anybody else to tell you what you're doing with your family is wrong, I don't think is okay. I feel like that's crossing a boundary.
Yeah.
It should not be crossed.
Yeah.
Like I get to decide what Sabbath looks like for my family on Sundays with the Lord.
Yeah.
And then it's nobody else's business.
I think something I will preach to the grave, which I've said on our podcast like so many different times, is that I think that if you get that kind of like visceral reaction to anything you share in your life that is only bettering you or your family or your life, there is an immediate like rejection from that other person of accountability and knowledge. And like, they don't want to know that there's something better or more they could be doing because they're comfortable being stuck, or they're comfortable in mediocrity, or they're comfortable not growing or being challenged. And I've noticed that like, if you pay attention, it doesn't matter what you say. If it's about like, you're getting to the gym every day, finally, you're cutting out like toxic food and you're focusing on like whole foods, you're just notice if you bring that up in a conversation, you will see the reactions. And sometimes people, there will be an immediate rejection coming from somebody's spirit. Like it's like a visceral reaction of like, oh, I could never do that. Oh, that sounds awful. That sounds like, oh, I give me extra gluten. I love sugar. Whatever it is. Right. And it's just this like passive way that their mind and their body and their spirit is like, not for me. I don't want to do that. I'm not ready to change. I'm not ready to be better. I don't want the accountability of the knowledge of what you're insinuating. So
Ignorance
bring
is
up
bliss.
See, exactly. And if you like bring up the concept of Sabbath to your small group and like just,
or the one I always get is when I talk about sex before marriage, that really pisses people off. Like, I'm sorry. That's like a legit
and like
commandment
it's
from the
it's
Lord.
the things that like in sex before marriage, I mean, that is like, it's all over scriptures, but it's also something that's like, that's almost in people's past. So if they're like throwing that off, it's probably because it's like, well, what do I do about it now? You know, like there's almost this like feeling of shame probably that overtakes
but you don't have to
people.
feel shame with Jesus. He atoned for our sins, and you can just ask for forgiveness and move on.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the concept. But like, once again, Satan loves to keep us stuck. So I don't know. I just find it really interesting. It's almost like my little psychological experiment.
I like, you are very, I love that about you. And you always make me think deeper about like psychology basically, and like how people operate. I feel like most of my life has been spent in just survival mode, to where I've never been healed enough to like notice other people like in the way their brain works. I've just been trying to figure my own brain out. But
valid.
It's very interesting.
Thanks.
And I really like that about you.
Thank you.
Okay, here's another one. Oh, actually in this one, so we're talking about, which one are we talking about? Sabbath. I wonder why this is here, but it does talk about total wealth, on like the global wealth pyramid. How he talks about 0.7% of adults hold 45.9% of the earth's wealth. Where is this coming from? I don't even know. Oh, I think he was talking about, just like in Egypt, we built an empire on the oppression of the poor. And he was talking
maybe
about
just us, we have more than we need concept.
We have, well, he did say in there something about like on Sabbath, I rebel against this oppression of the poor, because you're buying all of these things from the Chinese factories and you're literally harming somebody else. Because there's like a child somewhere that made this for you, right? And he's like, on Sundays, I rebel against that and I don't buy things. And that's what he said he does. Like one of his parts of Sabbath was like, no, we don't go out and consume, because consumerism, we're talking a lot about phones because I feel like that is what is like a theory in our life. But he talks a ton about consumerism in here and like being minimalistic and not overbuying, and I do like that. I loved that part of this book.
Yeah, me too.
I really did. That was step. Sorry, hang on. I lost one of my dog-eared pages because that's step 2. Where's my dog-eared page? Step 3. I'll find it. Give me a second. Where are you? Oh, here it is. Simplicity. Got it. Simplicity. And this is where he talks a lot, I guess, about minimalism, because he says one of the things he talks about on this very first page was the man who was righteous and had done all that he knew how to do, followed the commandments and chased after Jesus and said, what else can I do to like enter the kingdom of heaven? And he said, sell all of your stuff and come follow me. So sell all of your possessions and give them to the poor. Don't worry about your life, what you're going to eat or drink. Don't worry about your body or what you will wear. Is life more than food and the body more than clothes? Seek first God's kingdom. I really love that.
That verse was what like started my entire brand for writing, because it starts with like, consider the wildflowers. Yeah. And that's like one of my favorite things. And I love that that song that I sent you about. It's why am I blanking? Sparrows and Lilies. Yeah, just that whole concept of like when you slow down and you take the time, like if you go to the park and you don't have your phone and you're like looking at the birds or you're looking at the grass, or like, and just actually being overcome with this love of like those things are even cared for by God. Yeah. Then there's also this counter concept in the Bible where it's like even the rocks cry out for him. So like the groans and the moans of creation just like singing of his glory, but we're not noticing those things because we're not getting our face out of our phones. It's not just gonna like slap you in the face. Like,
it's not just social media, it's shopping, it's like the constant want for,
it could even be taking pictures of the hike you're on. You know, it's like there, I think a lot of times it's like not even poor intentions, it's just like we're missing it. We're missing it.
Something we did, we got a camera, like an actual camera, and my kids love this camera, and we take it everywhere with us because...
Is it the same when you got us?
Yeah. And I don't know if I'm good at leaving my phone behind when I'm in my car, because I always have this underlying thought of like, what if I'm in an accident? What if so-and-so, like, you know, what if there's an emergency?
Did you know our Kia Tellurides have a way of like, you can call 911
it's like
on it?
Yeah. But usually I don't want to call 911, I want to call my husband. But anyways, so I don't know if I'm there yet to where I can leave it behind, but I love to keep it in my glove box when we get out of the car and go do stuff. So we have our camera that I just keep in my little fanny pack. And then it's just so easy. We just download them onto the computer, and then I put them on my phone, and it's really fun. And they look cute because they're like all vintage. And he's got so many good you guys need to get this. There's so many good scriptures in here talking about consumerism. I mean, not specifically talking about consumerism, but you can tie it into consumerism and the obsession with money and the obsession of just like looking a certain way. You know what I mean? Yeah. Another thing I really like that I think kind of helped my, I don't know, addiction, not addiction, that's such a strong word, but like my love for looking for my next outfit is our Nuuly subscription. We probably they should give us a brand deal because we talk about them so much.
My whole outfit is Nuuly.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. And I'm wearing it because I'm like, I've got to return this. I better get it on camera. It's so cute. But like, I really do feel like before I had this subscription to Nuuly, I was constantly like wanting to go shopping, wanting to look for the new thing that was cute. And I was spending so much money. I'd be at Target and I'm like, oh, that's cute. And then I never wear it and just donate it 6 months later. Whereas while I'm renting my clothes, I get 6 outfits a week. I have to be a month, super intentional. Like I want a church dress. I want a dress to go out with Brady in. I want some jeans to like wear throughout. You know what I mean? And I feel like I get the excitement of new clothes, but I'm not going to donate these in 6 months because I'm just going to give them back.
Yeah, totally.
In a month. And I just feel like that has cut down in my house consumerism.
Well, and there's like the concept of, for me, like I'm hoping for this to be like a short-term thing for me. Like I don't want to rent my clothes forever. And I'm kind of like very, very particularly curating my wardrobe based on like if I find myself renting a piece that I wear a lot. Like there was one pullover I wore all month last. Like I reached for it like almost every day to some degree. And I'm like, I'm going to keep this. And it's like $40, you know? But I think that's kind of what I'm trying to do is like almost curate my wardrobe to the point where like eventually I could get rid of this and just have what I have. Especially with some of the dresses this summer, I'm really hoping to like, there's a few that I rented multiple times and I'm like, I should have just kept that, you know?
I know. Can you go back and see your history and then buy those? Because there's been a few that I'm like, I should have kept that dress. I did buy my very first purchase. I bought a pair of jeans. I have rented a pair of jeans from Nuuly every month since I started. And I've always returned them because I wasn't in love with them. And I put these ones on. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And it's like fun because they are super discounted.
Yeah.
I got a pullover this month from Free People that still had the tags on it. And I'm like, do I keep this? It's brand new. But anyways,
and you still get the discount.
It's like $40. I just can't believe it. But it's like the same pullover I bought last month, but it's a different color. It's just like so comfy. I love it. And these sweaters from Free People, I have a black one, a white one that I renting this one. I'm like, will I keep it?
And those were a purchase and they were freaking expensive when I bought them, but I have worn them so many times.
These are dirt cheap on Nuuly to buy.
They were like $75 each when I bought them from Free People.
No, but like to buy them off Nuuly, they're
so cheap.
But
I've had them for years. I've washed them after every wear and they're the same.
I know. They're my favorite.
There is stuff. I think, and that's another thing. Like, you gotta quit buying off of Shein and Temu, unless they're kids' clothes.
Hey, quality over quantity. We have like even talked about that being one of our phrases for the year.
Yes, it is truly. And like with my kids, the way I think about their clothes is, I have some clothes that are meant for getting dirty. And they're not expensive. They're things I know that will get passed on or a hole will get, put into them and I have to toss them. But there are a lot of things that I buy and they're heirlooms. Do you know what I mean? So like, that's how my brain processes that. Like, I'm going to spend this much money on this outfit because I'm going to pass it down to either my next daughter or it's going to go in Lily's little memory box and her kids can wear it. I have 2 dresses. 2 things from my childhood to pass on to my children. And there are these 2 dresses that my grandma bought me. One of them I wore in my mom's wedding. In my parents' wedding. I was 2 when they got married. And I had like the biggest, it's just so much fun. I put one of the dresses on Lily the other day and I'm like, this is so special. And I can't wait to give her like this dress, but also like dresses of her own that she just loved so much.
It is so special.
All right. The 4th thing, slowing. And this is where he talks about rules and he gives a whole list of like things that you could be doing. So I guess let me just read the list and then we'll go into them. So some of the things he talks about to slow the heck down. One of them is drive in the slow lane.
Yeah. The speed limit.
Drive the speed limit and drive in the slow lane. Those are the first 2. Come to a full stop at stop signs. Don't text and drive. Show up 10 minutes early to an appointment without your phone. Get in the longest checkout line at the grocery store. Turn your smartphone into a dumb phone. Have you seen the brick?
Yeah.
I'm kind of thinking about the brick. I like the idea of the brick because you can put it in the car
Yep.
And then it's like you can just bring it with you. I think it's genius. Get a flip phone or ditch your cell phone altogether. Parent your phone, put it to bed before you and make it sleep in. And then number 10 is keep off your phone until after your morning quiet time. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, that wasn't the last one. Set times for email. That was the one that made me turn off the messages notification was this one. Set your times for email. He says like he only checks his email at certain times of the day. Yeah. He has his notifications off so he can't even see if he has an email. I really like that. Set a time and a time limit for social media or just get off of it. Kill your TV. Do one task at a time. That's a revolutionary thought. Just do one thing at a time. Walk slower. Take a regular day alone for silence and solitude. Do you know what? Who was it that I followed on social media a long time ago? I think it was Big Little Feelings. And one of the two of them, every Mother's Day, the day before Mother's Day, she went up to a hotel and she had the whole day to herself at the hotel to read books, to do whatever. She woke up Mother's Day morning, came home and spent the day with her family. And I thought that was so genius to where I'm like, Lily, are you going to still need milk? This Mother's Day, because maybe I'd really like to do that.
Oh, that would be really wonderful.
Our husband's birthdays are always on Mother's Day weekend, so I can't really.
Chase isn't very tied to his birthday.
Neither is Brady, but
try to
I'm
get
tied
him
to
to
his
care
birthday.
about it, but like he doesn't care about it. Like
Brady's
he would easily be like, "You should go to a hotel for a night."
But
over.
I'm tied to Brady's birthday.
He'd be like, "Can we like hang out for a little while alone?" Wink, wink. Then you can go to the hotel. That's what he would say.
What else does he say? Take up journaling. I love journaling. I have journals all over my house and I write stuff down all the time. And there is something, and I will always do this. There is just something about pencil and paper. I do not like writing. I do not or typing. I do not like typing things out. I don't like having things on my phone. Like I like to have a physical journal with handwriting. And I think part of that is like my mom was a beautiful writer. My mom has written like novels that have never been published that I just loved to read. She never finished them. That was her problem. She would get 75% through and be done. She's a brilliant writer and she wrote a lot by hand. And I loved her handwriting. I still love her handwriting. So to open my baby book and see my mom's handwriting is very special to me. Totally. And there's just something you don't get that when I'm like reading type, you know? Experiment with mindfulness and meditation. If you can, take long vacations. I really loved this part of the book. I wish that was something that was in my stack of cards.
Dude, what did he say though? He called people out. Who said that though?
He probably did. I don't know.
He said something about like
I'm trying to speed read.
Yeah, I would be curious to see what he said about that. Because he said something about the hesitancy of...
I fully get that for many of you, this isn't an option, especially those suffering under the weight of poverty or injustice or starting a career. My encouragement is simply that you take as long of a vacation as you can, as often as you can. I'd encourage you to consider the same. I don't know. I don't see anywhere you called it out, but cook your own food and eat in. I feel like I'm good at that one. That's the one thing on this list that I'm good at. And then that was it. I
think our current book actually calls people out about vacations.
Maybe. Does it? I don't remember.
Yeah. He does.
I don't know. I really liked this book. He ends it with a verse from... What am I blanking on how to pronounce that?
Thessalonians.
Thank you. We urge you, brothers and sisters, to make it your ambition to lead a quiet life. And that was from Paul. And he also says right here, come to me and find rest for your souls. I feel like in Jesus, that is literally Jesus, what he wanted everybody to do. Come, follow me, find rest in your souls. Like man was created so that man might have joy.
Yep.
Be joyful.
And life abundant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That conversation I had with Noah at the beginning of the week has stuck in my mind all week long because I don't know if I didn't even put any thought into that answer. It just came out of my mouth. God was like, this is what he does. And like, I feel like in those moments, that's so important to like take notice of that. Like that wasn't something I put thought into. That just came out. God really wanted me to hear that or Noah to hear that. And so let's freaking focus on it. God gives us love. God gives us power. God gives us peace of mind. Satan gives us fear. Satan distracts us from all of the good things in life. And he's using your phone to do it.
Yeah, 1,000%. 1,000%.
All right.
All right.
See you next week with another book.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you for listening, and remember that you were chosen to be the mother of your children.
And you are exactly where you need to be.
See you next week.